Good evening, and welcome all to this exciting festival event titled Resistance and the Black Press, which the Association for the Study of African American Life and History is bringing to you in collaboration with the Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie branch in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We deemed it important to have an event focused on this important aspect of our Black history and culture. Since the earliest known publications in the United States and throughout the diaspora, the Black press has provided a platform for journalistic discourse, scholarship, and socio-political resistance. Indeed, the Black press has been a source of Black power and a defender of our shared values and interests. We are delighted that you have joined us for this exciting event. And to take us further into the program, I will now invite to the virtual podium Ms. Tamara Sanders, executive producer of the Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie branch of ASALH in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Tamara?
Thank you, Valerie. Good evening and welcome to this momentous Black History Month Festival program, Resistance and the Black Press, sponsored by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History and the Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie branch of ASALH, which promises to be most informative and enlightening. Historically, the Black press has been a leading voice, an advocate, and a force as part of the long and arduous Black freedom struggle. My name is Tamara Saunders, and I'm honored to be part of this program. I am the executive producer for the Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie branch of ASALH, located in Pittsburgh, PA. The Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie branch of ASALH was named after Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie, who was the first African-American woman to obtain a PhD in history from the University of Pittsburgh. Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie was a moving force on the ASALH Executive Council for many years and was instrumental in bringing the ASALH Annual Conference to Pittsburgh, PA in 2004. Dr. Mackenzie was a pioneering journalist, well known for her work at the Pittsburgh Courier. She was an African-American history scholar and educator whose work on African Americans in Western Pennsylvania was unparalleled. Dr. Mackenzie was also one of the first female reporters to work for the Pittsburgh Courier, which had at one time the largest circulation of any Black newspaper in the United States of America. My grandmother, Beatrice Saunders Robinson, worked with Edna Chappelle, who would later become Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie at the Pittsburgh Courier. My grandmother also works for Panelist Mr. Rod Doss as business manager of the new Pittsburgh Courier. The inauguration of our branch took place on October 13, 2012. At our inception, our charter members were Alan James, the late Ann F. Mason, and the late Major Mason III, Bernard Mack, the late Betty Tillman, Cheryl and Dwayne Ketchum, Martha Conley, George Moses, Helena Hughes, Dr. James Stewart, Joe Trotter, John Ford, June Pickett Dowdy, Margaret Self, Mildred Mickle, Marlene Branson, Priscilla Collins, Ronald B. Saunders, Samuel Black, Shirley Scott, and Valerie Lawrence. Dr. James Stewart, Professor of African American History Emeritus at Penn State University and former president of the Minnesota branch of ASALH, was the leading advocate in getting the branch established as a tribute to Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie. ASALH was founded in 1915 by Dr. Carter G. Woodson to document the contributions of African Americans to American history. ASALH has been implementing Dr. Woodson's vision for more than a century. ASALH's mission is to promote, research, preserve, interpret, and disseminate information about Black life, history, and culture to the global community. There are 45 vibrant ASALH branches around the United States of America, all of whom are engaged in providing rich programs of substance and content to keep alive the important work of Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the mission of ASALH. The Mackenzie Branch Outstanding Program has been central to extending that vision. On October 1st, 2022, at the 107th Annual Meeting Conference Awards Banquet held in Montgomery, Alabama, the Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie Branch was the recipient of ASALH's highest honor bestowed on a branch with the Branch of the Year Award for Outstanding Branch Programming. For the Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie Branch of Pittsburgh to be honored by ASALH is the most rewarding to each member and embraces the powerful, enduring legacy developed by Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie. How fitting that the Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie Branch would receive the Branch of the Year in its 10th anniversary year. The branch members are quite confident that Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie is smiling down from heaven at our branch and saying, "Exceptional job, well done." The support among our membership, like a solid bedrock, has been and continues to be most encouraging and strong. The branch has members from around the United States of America who are engaged in continuing the legacy of our founder and Dr. Edna B. Mackenzie. Our present branch officers who do an outstanding and exemplary job are as follows: Alexis Clipper, Secretary; Anita Russell, Vice President of Media Relations; Dr. Madeline Turner Dickerson, Vice President of Memberships and Donations; Latara Jones, Vice President of Programs; Alana J. Carter Donaldson, Historian; Betty Pickett, Director of Youth Outreach; Reverend B. Denise Welsh, Chaplain; Judith Saunders, Treasurer; Ronald B. Saunders, President; Gwen Howes, Zoom Administrator. The Mackenzie Branch is an integral part of the tree built by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. The Mackenzie Branch has a rich cadre of esteemed, renowned scholars locally and nationally, presenting rich, highly informative programs. The Dr. Charles Drew Knowledge Bowl, held last February with students from Howard University, Washington, D.C., Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, and Frostburg State University in Frostburg, Maryland, was the first of its kind virtual bowl in ASALH's history and was a huge success. The Mackenzie Branch Negro Mountain Project, it is an example of partnership with other branches and entities to carry out the mission of ASALH. Those entities and branches are Frostburg State University, the Prince George's County Truth Branch of ASALH, the Samuel L. Banks Branch of ASALH, Maryland Department of Transportation, the Secretary Office, Allegheny Branch NAACP, Garrett County Administrator, Garrett County Historical Society, and former Maryland Delegate Clarence Tiger Davis. The collaboration of the branches and the various parties have proven to be very productive and encouraging. I am honored to introduce tonight's moderator, Dr. Clint C. Wilson II. Dr. Wilson is a journalist, an author, and educator who served as Associate Dean and Chair of the Journalism Department in the Howard University School of Communications, where he taught courses in journalism, mass communication, and media studies. He is a recipient of the Honor Medal for Distinguished Service in Journalism from the University of Missouri and has lectured at academia symposia at colleges and universities throughout the United States and abroad at Oxford University. Dr. Wilson is a former NAACP Image Award nominee and has been a seminar leader at the American Press Institute. Dr. Wilson is widely regarded among the nation's foremost scholars of the Black press. His professional journalism career includes work for various news media organizations, including the Associated Press, Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, St. Petersburg Times, USAtoday.com, and the Los Angeles Sentinel. His scholarly work on the relationship between people of color and general circulation media has been published in such periodicals as Journalism, Educator, Columbia Journalism Review, Quill, and Change. His work has been cited in textbooks and trade journals, including Editor and Publisher and Advertising Age, among others. Dr. Wilson's civic contributions include service as a chair of the Montgomery County, Maryland Interagency Coordinating Board for Community Use of Public Facilities. He's also active in several professional and service organizations. Now, I would like to take this time to introduce our panelists, Ms. Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer, Dr. Frances Murphy Draper, publisher of the Afro-American newspaper, Dr. Chiogo Constance Ikoku, journalist, the African Press Club, and a Rise TV Nigeria, Mr. Rod Doss, publisher, New Pittsburgh Courier, and Dr. E. James West, lecturer in arts and sciences at University College, London. I will now turn the virtual podium over to Dr. Clint C. Wilson II.
Good evening and greetings to all. The resistance movement against enslavement and subjugation of Black people in the United States has been executed on several fronts. History tells us resistance efforts have ranged from armed rebellion to the development of social welfare organizations, the creation of the Underground Railroad, and of course, the Black press. Because America's Black press was founded amid a variety of protestations and self-help efforts, it became the communication centerpiece of resistance. In 1827, the editors of Freedom's Journal, the first Black newspaper in the United States, proclaimed in its first edition their desire to plead their own cause. And from the beginning, the New York City-based journal made clear its role was to support what it called the common cause of the Black community. From that time forward, the Black press's role as a tool of resistance was firmly established. In 1829, David Walker, a former editorial contributor to Freedom's Journal and a Boston-based agent for the newspaper, wrote a strident 76-page treatise, which became known as Walker's Appeal. In his personal act of resistance, Walker decried the heinous treatment of Black citizens by white Americans. He wrote about how his enslaved brethren suffered, quote, wretchedness and endless miseries, poured out upon our fathers, ourselves, and our children by Christian Americans. The Black press's long history of resistance had begun. Thus far, it has resulted in nearly 2 centuries of support for social, legislative, and judicial efforts on behalf of African Americans. I will note here just a few other historical acts of resistance carried out by the Black press throughout American history. The story of Willis Hodges is instructive of the various ways Black citizens addressed challenges of communicating aspects of what the editors of Freedom's Journal called the common cause. In 1833, Hodges observed the emergence of the penny press era in the United States. The phenomenon marked the beginning of what we now call mass media in America. It was made possible by the rise of literacy among the lower class of white citizens via development of public schools, technological advances in printing, and innovative newspaper distribution methods, and of course, corporate exploitation of the masses. Prior to the inception of the penny press era, public information about national and local civic affairs was available only to the educated, elites, and wealthy corporate business leaders. Benjamin Day, an editor and publisher of the New York Sun, is credited as the founder of cheap mass production of, quote, news in the US. Day boldly gave his newspaper the motto, "The sun shines for all." The word all was printed in capital letters. Very quickly, the Sun became the nation's largest circulated newspaper. Willis Hodges saw the Sun as an opportunity to express his views concerning the aspirations of Black citizens. He hoped the Sun would be an inclusive vehicle to reach wide distribution among whites in the city. It would be a means of expressing Black resistance on a large scale. Thus, he wrote a letter to the editor of the Sun where he believed thoughtful contributions were available for all. Hodges's hopes were demonstrably dashed. His article was altered to suit the Sun's perspective. It was relegated to the Sun's advertising section. And finally, Hodges was billed $15 in 1833 dollars. The invoice was accompanied by a notation which read that the New York Sun was not available for the expressions of Black people. By 1847, Willis Hodges energized his resistance to such biased treatment and founded his own newspaper, the Ram's Horn, which often published material written by Frederick Douglass. During the Reconstruction era, the New Orleans Crusader was a tower of resistance. That newspaper was founded in 1891 and was supported by the Citizens Committee, an alliance comprised of prominent men of color who lived in the city. The committee's meetings were held in the Crusaders' offices, where one of its members, Louis Martinet, edited and published a weekly journalistic campaign against apartheid in Louisiana's passenger railroad system. The paper was indeed a crusader for racial equality. The efforts of the Black-owned weekly paper and the Citizens Committee resulted in the infamous U.S. Supreme Court case Plessy versus Ferguson. About 4 decades later, Robert Abbott's Chicago Defender was surreptitiously delivered via railways to Black readers in the Deep South by African-American workers spearheaded workers in the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. These acts of resistance spearheaded the Great Migration of oppressed Black people of the South to northern cities where better opportunities were available. In 1915, when the racist motion picture, The Birth of a Nation, was released, Charlotta Bass and her California Eagle stood firmly in opposition. Because her newspaper was based in Los Angeles, she was able to monitor the Hollywood project during its production stages. She alerted other Black publishers throughout the nation to the extremely vile portrayals of African Americans in the film. Her actions enabled an advanced preparation of protest by citizens of color in major cities where it was shown. Although it may be difficult to imagine for those who have seen the film, it has been reported that Mrs. Bass succeeded in getting a few offensive scenes deleted before its release. During World War II, the Pittsburgh Courier spearheaded the Double V campaign, which became a national rallying cry among Black Americans. The campaign supported Black soldiers and sailors they saw as both fighters against tyranny overseas and racial oppression at home. There are numerous other historical champions of Black press resistance, including a significant number of women, such as Ida B. Wells, the Memphis Free Speech and Headlight, Lucille Bluford of the Kansas City Call, and Daisy Bates of the Arkansas State Press, among many others. So our panelists this evening represent current soldiers without swords who continue the tradition of Black press resistance against 21st century versions of injustice and inequality. They represent the spectrum of the Black press, including publishers, editors, and journalists. At this time, our panelists will come forward for their introductions. I may exert the privilege to introduce the panelists myself. They are alphabetically Ms. Denise Rolark Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer, Mr. Rod Doss of the New Pittsburgh Courier, Ms. Frances Tony Draper of the Afro-American newspapers, Dr. Shiogar Constance Ikowuko of the African Press Club, and Dr. E. James West, co-director the Black Press Research Collective at Johns Hopkins University.
Good evening. I didn't know that folks were waiting for me to start, but I'm glad I got the cue. Dr. Wilson, thank you so very much for having us on this evening. I'm really admiring that telephone behind you. I wonder if it still rings.
Yes, unfortunately.
It's an honor to be on with the panelists this evening and to really, I think the first thing I want to say is how much I appreciate the work that you've been doing all over the years to keep the story alive about the Black press, doing the research about our origins and how we have continued to be that voice of Black resistance for the Black community. And it's interesting because a lot of the history goes up to the point that our newspaper started, which was in 1964. And some may believe that, the work that we did, the work that the Black press historically did in the form of resistance and, as you said, pleading the common cause of the Black community ended at some point. But I think, as we look at where we are today, particularly in states across the country that are trying to say cancel or eliminate, the Black story, the Black history story, I think our mere existence is a sign of Black resistance. And so having said that, I know that what we do to continue to tell that common cause, to speak on behalf of the Black community, to give the Black community voice is a sign of resistance. And even when we raise those stories within our communities of resistance when it comes to civil rights, environmental justice, rights for women, you name it. I mean, all of those are the stories that we tell from our perspective, which again is a sign of Black resistance. So I'll stop there because I know we have several panelists to speak. I think you're muted, Dr. Wilson.
Yes. Is Mr. Doss online? I see him.
Yes, I am here.
Great.
It's great to be on with such a distinguished panel. My goodness, lovely ladies, good to see you again. And I thank you all for all the great work you continue to do year in and year out. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you. With our theme, Black resistance, it's and the Black press. My goodness, it's really a story about the people in our community who resist. We chronicle what happens in our community. The stories that we tell are about the people in the vanguard of resistance from within our community. And what a challenge it is to be able to tell those stories, because the people in our communities have opened up the doors for employment. They've opened up the doors to desegregate other things throughout our communities. They've fought for political advantage and consideration. We are honored to be able to sit back and allow our reporters, our photographers to go into the communities and talk with people who are on the front lines on a day-to-day basis that really capture the history that is unfolding within our community. Yes, we have great people who record those stories, and their stories are not to be slighted in any way, but they are telling the stories of people within the community on the front lines, fighting valiantly day in and day out. And the fight continues to this day. We have not overcome as often as we'd like to think we have. We still have a long way to go. But we're privileged to see that history is still being made. Right here in the state of Pennsylvania, we have the first Black lieutenant governor who was elected, the very first in all these years. We have the first Black congresswoman from the side of Pittsburgh, who it is a phenomenal first, because there have been Blacks that have tried to win that seat year in and year out against a strong Democratic candidate. But we now have a strong woman of color representing in the congressional seat. This is phenomenal. So she is making tremendous strides in fighting for and on behalf of the African-American community. But I go back over time and I look back and I recall the stories of people like Harvey Adams, Jim McCoy, all these people who stood on the front lines, opening up the doors to employment. And one of the foremost challenges for our community was the utilities. Here, we could go to the stores and boycott the stores and not shop there anymore. But with the utilities, we didn't have any option. That's the only place we could go. They provided the electricity. There was one place that provided the electricity. There were one or two places that provided the gas. And at the same time, we didn't have any options other than that. But we had people on the front lines of our community who fought hard to get them to recognize that they owed us because we were paying rates. We were rate payers. And so as a consequence, we should be considered for job opportunities along with all the white counterparts in our community. So in short, Well, I'm privileged to be affiliated with the New Pittsburgh Courier, an historical entity in all the Black press. To be able to sit here and talk about all the people I've been surrounded by that have engaged people within the community that have reshaped history, retold history, reclaimed history, and make history each and every week on behalf of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Wilson, and to my fellow panelists. Thank you, Dr. Wilson, for those opening remarks and the context in which you shared those. We really appreciate those. I'm Frances Murphy Draper, better known as Tony. I am the CEO and publisher of the 130-year-old Afro-American newspaper. We say newspaper, that's in our name, but we really are not a newspaper any longer. We are a media company. But just like John Russwurm, we still need to plead our own cause, and others are trying to speak for us or to silence us and have us not speak and acknowledge our history or teach it to our children or to remember where we've come from. So the Black press is critical today. We are still resisting. We have our history, yes, but we are relevant today. And we're in a day and time when we repeat what we hear sometimes that says, news is dead, the Black press is not relevant, but I'm here to say the Black press is as relevant today in 2023, even more so, perhaps, and important because we are the keepers, yes, of history, but we are still resisting, as Denise said, we're still resisting, in the everyday work that we do. Our tools have changed. Our technologies have changed. Our messages on storytelling methods have changed, but unfortunately, too much of our story is still the same. Mm-hmm. And so I'm pleased to be here this evening. We represent the oldest continuously published Black newspaper by the same family, if you will, in the country. And you can rest on those laurels, but that is not about resting on what we've done. It's about standing on the shoulders of those who came before us and making it better. So let me just give a little anecdote about connecting the past to the present. And so all of us are probably aware of the fact that the 6888, the all-female Black female postal battalion, was recently awarded a Congressional Gold Medal because of the work of people like retired Colonel Edna Cummings. Edna Cummings told me that one of the reasons she believes that she was successful in getting that congressional medal bestowed upon that group, she was able to research the Afro archives, where we had listed the names of almost every single one of the women who served in that postal battalion. And then over the last 2 years, go to Congress and say, this person is from your district, and she served in this capacity in World War II. Therefore, you should support that legislation. If it had not been for the Black press, no one would know their names. And so today we say their names, we honor them, and there's so many other examples of why the Black press is as relevant today in 2023 as it was in 1827.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll jump in next. So really honored to be part of this event and to be among some of the leading lights of Black press, past and present. I'll just quickly say two things. One is to really reiterate Dr. Draper's point about the relevancy of the Black press today. I think particularly, I'm a primarily an academic or a Black press scholar, and I think there's a really bad tendency to think about the Black press in the past tense, particularly within the academy. But if you only have to look at the membership of the NNPA, dozens and dozens and dozens of publications actively reaching millions and millions of readers every week to see the continued real importance of the Black press, both on a kind of community, local level, and then nationally to help set the agenda. So I just wanted to reiterate that quickly. And then also on this subject of Black resistance, I think one of the really great things about the Black press as a whole is it it challenges us to think about, you know, what resistance means to different sections of the Black community and the diversity and complexity of the Black press. And you think of all the very, you know, the so many fantastic different publications that come under that quite capacious umbrella term of the Black press, serving very different audiences, often with quite different editorial perspectives. I think that's a really great snapshot of the broader diversity, complexity, vibrancy of the Black community within and beyond the United States. And, you know, in many ways, there isn't a single Black press, just as there isn't a single, you know, Black story or Black history. And, you know, today, as much as in the past, you see that in the type of publications that come under that umbrella term of the Black press. So, yeah, I'll just open with that, and I look forward to discussing more.
Thank you. Are there other panelists on right now? I think Dr. Ikowuku has had some technical difficulties. Well, let me throw this question out for our panelists. What issues are specifically challenging your outlets that merit resistance at this time?
Can you repeat that question, Dr. Wilson?
Well, what issues are specifically challenging right now for your outlet that merits particular attention for resistance? It may be, you know, we all know about politics, and there are, you know, environmental issues, there are issues with labor, et cetera. Are there any right now that stand out in your communities that deserves particular attention, that threatens your community?
Yes, I'd like to answer that on part. One of the issues of great concern is affordable housing. It seems to have risen to the forefront of issues of plaguing the African American community. Here in the city of Pittsburgh, we have seen African Americans being forced out of the city, and certainly areas where they have promoted businesses and the rents being raised so that they're forced out of their businesses. And at the same time, the housing, affordable housing, is getting more non-existent than ever. They continue to put up $1 million apartment complexes and condominiums throughout the city, and it's driving people over the city line, forcing them out of the city. So that is one of the main issues. We have people on the front lines battling every day against this issue and trying to work with the city fathers to get some sort of amendments or some legislation to effectively stop some of the construction that goes on that forces people out. But at the same time, there's a lot of damage that has been done. Principally, we noticed several years back when Black businesses were starting to emerge in a community called East Liberty. They were doing fairly well, quite successful, and all of a sudden there was a move to, as I said before, increase the rents and force these people out and supplant their businesses with white-owned businesses. So it's a movement that affects not just the living conditions, but also the business opportunities for African Americans throughout the city. So that is an issue of great concern, and I'm sure it's not just here in the city of Pittsburgh.
Right.
Well, I think in Baltimore, we're in both Baltimore and Washington. I think the issue that we're facing most is an identity crisis. An identity crisis that leads to hopelessness, that then you have all these other things that snowball, right?
the inability for us to really connect to who we are and who we were created to be. And so if we don't teach our history, for example, if we don't lift our communities up and let people, because for example, if you look at our publications and our outlets address the issues as my friend Rodas talked about. You turn on the things that our young people are watching, and some of them are reading our papers. Yes, I agree, and they're online, but there are lots of other things vying for their attention. If you turn on our 11 o'clock news, and I don't know about other markets, there's 15, 20 minutes of what's wrong. Very little about what's right. That leads to an identity crisis amongst the community and leads to hopelessness. And so what we, I think, need to start to address is, we're talking about all this mental health crises that our young people are under now. And we want to say, okay, that's because of COVID. I say it's because we don't know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can add to that, Mr. Doss said, I mean, I think housing or access to affordable housing and all of the issues that are impacting us when it comes to home ownership, when it comes to education, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to the environment. I think the one place where the Black press can go that no others want to venture is the impact of the legacy of slavery. None of these issues, as Tony said earlier, are new. And they all have their roots in a culture and a society that really tried to deprive a group of people based upon the color of their skin. And so we're still fighting that, no matter what issue we look at, if we can trace it back to an institution that was created to establish these wrongs. And so as publications, we have to keep our eyes. I like what Dr. West said when he called us the leading lights. I think that's what we are called to do, is not only to put a light on these injustices that impact our community, but also to give a historical perspective so that those people who say to themselves, I'm the first, this is new, this has never happened before, this is the first time this has happened, whatever folks like to say, we know better, right? And we need to tell more. And I think I feel really blessed that we have a generation right now that's really interested in connecting the dots of the past, the present, as they, sort of carve their way into the future. So I don't think there's any one issue that we're, talking about Black resistance. There are, like Tony said, a multiple list of issues, but the connection between how far we've come, which is the good news, and how we got here, which is the good news, needs to be juxtaposed to why we're here. And I think the Black press is the institution that can do that.
Thank you.
Good.
Dr. West, I wonder if you want to respond to that.
Okay.
I think, I'll just reiterate, a lot of the points, the really important points that people have raised in their answers there are thinking about the legacy, but also the historical significance of the Black press. And I think, one of the really important things in the present is thinking about the Black press historically as, a document, as a testament, as an archive. And I think for the Black press specifically at the moment, one of the really big challenges is thinking about how to preserve that archive. And there's been some really important work that's been going on at the moment. Some of you in the news might have seen that the archives at Howard University just announced a large grant to help digitize their Black press archives. There was a lot of recent debate around the history of the Johnson Publishing archives, particularly the photography archives, which is, one of maybe the greatest visual archive of 20th century Black life. And there was a lot of uncertainty about what would happen to that. Eventually, it was bought by Getty in a consortium, and then it's going to be donated to the National Museum of African American Life and History. And those are really important victories in a sense, but I think it reiterates just how important it is to, we talk a lot about the historic significance of the Black press, but it's really important to preserve that in terms of the archiving of that importance. And I think that's a really great challenge at the moment, and that links to broader challenges to the archiving and teaching of Black history more broadly. I mean, you don't have to look far to connect the specific challenges, logistical, financial, to archiving specific Black papers, to broader challenges to the teaching, circulation of Black history and historical perspectives in the United States. We can maybe use Florida as an example, but not exclusively Florida. So yeah, it's part of a broader ecosystem and network of challenges facing the Black press and also the Black community as we move forward.
I just want to say that I agree that our archives are invaluable, and Denise was there. We just received a federal earmark towards when I say we, Afro Charities, that's our 501c3, towards the redevelopment of a mansion in Baltimore to preserve the Afro's archives of 130 years old, 3 million photographs.
Whoa.
3 million. And things that have never been heard before, like a conversation between my grandfather, Carl Murphy, and Thurgood Marshall about the Brown versus Board of Education brief. And so we found that reel to reel maybe 3 years ago. We've never seen it and had it transcribed and said, oh my goodness, listen to this conversation between Thurgood Marshall, Carl Murphy, talking like the good buddies that they were about this brief, and the NAACP, and asking my grandfather, what did you think about it? And Thurgood Marshall saying to Carl Murphy, the boys of the press, I think that's the way he called it, they want their hands on this. He said, I'll give it to the Afro. I'm not giving it to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was in his own voice. So you're right, Dr. West, the archives are invaluable to teach our history. And so we are digitizing as we speak and hoping to open that in the latter half of 2024.
Let me go and add this to the conversation, because historically, the Black press has been out front celebrating Black life. We were on the front lines talking about all the people who got no recognition in any media other than the Black press. I mean, we go back over time, and we can go back through sports history to Joe Louis, Jackie Robinson. The names are endless. We can talk about people in the arts and the entertainment industry who got no mention other than in the Black press and beyond the Chitlin circuit, as it was once called. So we also sit back and celebrate those who were on the front lines of changing legislation that benefited us. We told their stories. We were out front working with them when they were ignored by the larger press, when they could not get anything up until any consideration whatsoever until the civil rights riots of '68 and beyond. That's when the white press decided to raid whose shops? Our shops, to get Black writers to go into our communities because their writers couldn't get into our communities. Right. But along the time, the whole history is celebrating Black life. We were the ones that allowed for people to come face to face with the stories behind the stories of individuals who were doing incredible things in our community. And now today, as we sit back, who is looking at our history? Everybody wants to know the untold stories of Blacks in our country, because they're phenomenal. But who has that story? The archives of the Black press.
That's right.
I just want to also add to that, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on Dr. Wilson, but as I said before, he has chronicled the story or the history of the Black press, or probably more than many have. I don't know who else has done it. I'm glad that Dr. West is now contributing to that storytelling. But when you mention Soldiers Without Swords, that ended like 1960 something, right? So we still have 60, almost 60 years, which could be 100, in which the story of the Black press today is not being told. And so, we still have a history and a legacy and a story to tell. And we need Dr. Wilson, hey, time to write another book, or Mr. or Dr. West, or any of us, right, who have to kind of take that by the whatever to begin to do that, to make sure that we get the current Black history told, particularly as we are transforming now into new formats. This is something that really we should be documenting.
Yes. Yeah,
I think Hansi back.
Yeah, there's obviously been a major shift in technology over the last 10, 15 years that has impacted the Black press. I've had a concern that the expense of making that conversion, it may be rather steep, and I do, for example, the notion or the idea of the archives. I tried for years to try to get people to archive material. We had a collection at Howard University at the Moreland Spingarn Center. And I had a number of publishers who actually sent their papers to me every week. And then the curator would come over, or I would come over, to her office, and I would bring a armload of papers. And we didn't know what else. We had no means of doing anything with them in terms of archiving, digitizing, et cetera. The recent grant that has come through, under the auspices of Nicole Jones, Hannah Jones, has brought some money to that. And so that work has begun. They have to go back to the storage room, big storage room, and all of those papers were just stacked up there. There was no order, nothing. And so that's going to be quite a task, but at least the money is there to do that. So I'm particularly pleased that, many of our papers are, in terms of their daily or the weekly product, are online as well as print. And that's important because that's where the young audience is now, online. Everything has to be video, et cetera. But there's also a place for the written word and for more reflective kinds of coverage of our community. So I was wondering if any of the publishers see the transition to digital formats as problematic, or has costs come down enough to make it feasible, for everyone.
Well, what I'll say, Dr. Wilson, because I think that's an excellent segue to Constance, who's here with us now. But to say that, just for your information, Moreland Spingarn several years ago mandated that we could no longer send newspapers. We had to send our digital editions. So that cuts off, some of that
Yeah.
current work that they have to do. Now it's just the old documents, but we've got, Constance, who is digital, all digital. And, if you are willing to let her come in while we've got her.
Yes, please, Dr. Kopu, please tell us about your experiences of resistance from the global perspective. And we've been talking primarily from the domestic perspective. We'd love to hear your work.
Okay, I'm going to be very fast because I don't know how long I have before it trips off. But thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so delighted to be here. I wanted to begin by drawing parallels between the African American life and history and the African life and history in terms of resistance and the media. I think that we have a lot in common that most times we are not aware of because the history is not taught properly or not taught at all. So we do not understand one another. So whether you talk about the African American struggle during the civil rights movement, you talk about the fight against segregation, the fight against Jim Crow, racism, or you come to Africa, you talk about our fight against colonialism and then imperialism and all of that. It is the same struggles in different formats. So, and our media in Africa, I'm from Nigeria, West Africa. The media in Nigeria has been very vibrant and has played a lot of role, very strong roles in all the struggles and all the phases. So the phases from during the colonialism time, the media was used to educate people and to inform them and to boost morale and to get people together to rally and to fight together. And then you got to independence. A lot of African countries got their independence in the 1960s. So the media continued to play a role during the independence period and Pan-Africanism. If you can remember, in the 60s, there was a wave and movement of Pan-Africanism because Africans thought that they need to band together, and work together, as one continent instead of different small nation states that had no leverage and power. Again, the media was used to sort of rally people around, especially during the creation of the Organization of African Unity that later became the African Union. And then we transitioned to market democracy, democracy and market economy, and then came the military rules, so many military rules in the 70s, 80s, and then we transitioned again to a lot of civil wars. All this period, there was resistance from the press working in favor of the people or working with the people. And then after the civil wars, we had some peace, and then we returned to democracy and now to the digital age. So what I'm saying in essence is that most of your struggles are similar to ours. And I would like to quickly conclude by saying that I think we should continue to build bridges between African Americans and Africans. A lot of people have been coming to the continent for centuries, other people. I am saying, you guys, you need to come to the continent as well. It's your home. And I think there's so much we can do by collaborating, by working together. Come to Africa, it's your home. Let us work together. And I think that you would love it. I come to America. I lived in America for 2 or 3 years, and it was wonderful for me because I understood the African Americans. I understood the history. It gave me an opportunity to learn. And I would say that I have the greatest respect for African Americans, for what you have survived, for what you have fought through, and you're still standing. I have the greatest respect. Once again, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so sorry the internet is bad, but I'm so excited, and I will come again if I get another invitation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I wanted to add that many people aren't aware that as far back as the beginning of the Black press in America, Freedom's Journal carried regularly articles about Africa and the diaspora. And many people don't know that. But when you think about it, those people back in the 1820s were not that far removed from their African roots. And so there was exchange of news information, and the Freedom's Journal made sure to include those articles, including letters from Africa to address to free Black people in the United States. So that needs to not only continue, but be expanded. And I thank you for those comments, because I concur totally with that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Dr. West, I wonder if you might comment, you're based in the UK. Are there parallels with people of color in the UK and Europe? What are you seeing there in terms of the role of the Black press and resistance?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I'll just talk about kind of the Black experience in Britain as a specific example of this. Interestingly, you know, some of the first publications, Black publications that Black people in the UK really engaged with were African-American publications brought over during World War II by African-American GIs. You know, this massive influx of American soldiers, including African-American GIs, into Britain was, for a lot of communities, the first time that Black people had like a significant presence in the United Kingdom in terms of like relatively large numbers of people. That's not to detract from the kind of longer history of the Black experience in Britain, but World War II and African-American GIs is a really important moment, and lots of them are bringing over copies of, you know, The Defender or of Negro Digest, all those type of publications. And if you look at the letters to the editor pages of something like Ebony in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you see lots of letters from people from all over the world. And it's such a great example of how the wider circulation of the Black American press beyond the borders of the continental United States. And I think as well, like Black publishers in the UK developed their own magazines and own publications, and many of them were explicitly diasporic in orientation. One of some of the very earliest publications in Britain that were seen as Black British periodicals were explicitly Caribbean in focus. You see publications such as Flamingo, which was a consumer magazine, which was essentially inspired by Ebony. They did a Liberia specific edition, just as Ebony did an Ebony Africa edition during the 1960s that not a lot of people know about. So yeah, I think it is, again, going back to Constance's point, we talk about the Black press often and it's restricted to the United States, but there's very much a global Black press, and thinking about the specific ways in which Black periodicals in different places, whether it's sub-Saharan Africa or whether it's Britain or whether it's the United States or whether it's the Caribbean, they interact, they engage with each other, they exchange. People write for multiple publications, people write across different geographic and national boundaries. And that's one of the things that's always made the Black press such a vital voice, because it isn't constrained by those specific borders. And I think that's something that, with new digital technologies, thinking about diasporic communities, that's something that the Black press can really take a lead in moving forward. And yeah, I think that's, it's really interesting to see, for sure.
Yes.
I just want to, I don't know how this relates, but I know this is an effort that Dr. Ekoku and I have kind of been working on for too many years. But last summer, I had the opportunity to visit Benin in West Africa. A group visited a village and sat with a king in that village. And as I looked, as you know how folks do, Constance, they have photographs of everybody on the wall. And I looked up and I saw a photograph of George Floyd. And I asked the king, why do you have George Floyd's photo on your wall? And he said, well, first of all, we believe the family has traced their ancestry to this area. But secondly, we understand and appreciate the struggle of the Black American. And this is an example of, the flaws. But we're, just like we will not forget that name, hopefully, because of, a lot of reasons, but they felt the same about, in essence, he was a hero to a certain extent. But I'll also say, one of the things we've done in the past is to, when it comes to Martin Luther King's birthday, to look at cultures around the world who utilize that time to really talk about Black resistance and utilize the Black Americans' role in that as sort of, again, Dr. West, a leading light on how to tell their stories and the issues that are common to both of us, like Dr. Koku said. So, our struggle is similar, our fight and the way in which we're resisting, I think, is similar, and we learn from each other by sharing this information.
Dr. Ikoku, while we have you on, I just loved the chronicling that Dr. West just did, just in terms of the British perspective. And you talked about this collaboration and how we can learn from each other. What would that look like? How have you and Denise worked together? What would that look like? How could we begin building these bridges?
I mean, this kind of event that we're having now is so wonderful. It would be nice to include more people, not only journalists, maybe historians, people that are at university that do research. I think that would be awesome to do that. Then secondly, a lot of Africans are very, they look inward into their own country. Yes, there's digital age now and people can read stuff on the internet, but there is actually lack of knowledge and deep understanding about the Black people in America or the Caribbean. I understand because I have traveled quite a bit as a journalist. So I think that forums or fora through which we can begin to share this kind of knowledge and do exchange, whether exchange means, physical exchange, visiting one another's country, or through the internet, again, via digital means, or through archiving and sharing those archived history and stories, even writing, today's stories and sharing them. These things can be worked out. I think it's a whole lot of information that will be useful for the younger people that are coming up, so they have a wider view of, the Black life and history all over the world. So because there are Black people, whether it's in the Caribbean, whether it's in America, whether it's in Europe and Asia, they face the same thing everywhere that I've been. It's the same story. So these collaborations, I think, will be useful in getting people to work together, exchange skills, especially skills, exchange skills between one another, generate income and revenue between one another, which also helps you to do more work. So these are my initial thoughts, but we can definitely discuss more on this. I would be very happy to do that.
Thank you so much. And this is just such a wonderful segue to our audience's questions. We have been curating those questions, and we will invite all of you to join in and ask these questions, answer these questions. From Anita D. Russell, she says that I absolutely agree with the idea that the negative is magnified while the positive is hidden in plain view. It puts us in an identity crisis, which is exactly why we need history and the Black press. How do we continue to put forth the positive messages and to elevate them and shine the light on them? Any one of you can take this.
What a great question. I think that one way we do it is to support our Black publications, because we do talk more about the positive, I believe, than we do the negative. And Constance, I appreciate what you said around, because it ties into this question. Some of what people in other countries hear about African Americans, you had the benefit of coming to America, and so you know different, but think about the kind of news that is constantly fed to other places. If I didn't live in America, I might be afraid to come here myself. From reading the other news, right? And so I love the idea of us exchanging those stories. And how can we do that? We can be intentional about supporting Black publications, let me make a distinction, Black owned media. Because there's a difference. That's another whole panel. But be intentional about that and work together to do that. Denise and I are in a collaboration together called Word in Black. And it's 10 of the leading Black newspapers in the country. And we just share content. We freely share content. And NMPA does the same thing.
You know, I would just say really quickly that, you know, folks love to come up with something new. So now it's, as Tony knows, it's solutions journalism. And while I think there's a science behind it, and we're all learning about it and learning, you know, what the science is, the thing is, we've been doing this since the very beginning. You know, I think the history of the Black press is going to show how we did talk. I mean, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about, you know, the negatives of slavery. We talked about how we got through it and the people that helped to get us through it. The people that helped to get us through, as Constance said, Jim Crow, you know, the civil rights era, whatever, you know, the heroes and the sheroes of those eras, you know, that, you know, actually, again, helped to lead us into, you know, the light, a different era or a different position because of those positive stories. It was like a way to show, it was a way of showing the way, you know, to how to get from the south to the north, as, you know, Pittsburgh Courier was so good at doing. When you get there, you know, where you can go, the homes that would, the people that would house you, the places you could go to get jobs, you know, the churches that were available to you, what resources were there. Those are the stories we've always told. So, you know, it's nothing new for us, but like Tony said, you gotta read us to know it.
And that's a really nice segue to a question from an audience member. A number of the questions are about teaching the history and the fact that there is now an aggressive movement to suppress teaching this history. What role can the Black press play? We heard and learned a lot about the archives that are available through Dr. West. How do we make sure that we're preserving and teaching the history of our people, the experiences that go beyond, you know, what's typically taught in the classroom, and that address and buffer against this identity issue that we talked about earlier? Anyone want to take that on?
So I'm gonna jump in really quickly, only because full disclosure, you know, I am a board member of ASALH. And I think we're missing something there, because there are ASALH chapters all over this country, just like there are Black newspapers all over this country. We need to partner. You know, I think a lot of our publications have, you know, Black History Facts and what we, you know, publish in our publications, but we need to, I think, link the historians who don't really do PR. They don't know that. They just know, you know, y'all know how to write books and do research, and they end up on the shelf, you know, behind you, and you hope somebody reads them. But, you know, that research is something that would even help us as we tell stories. So I think if we could, you know, really talk, as Dr. Draper said, you know, be intentional about connecting the newspapers or the media organizations with the ASALH chapters and work together on developing content that would help teachers or maybe churches who have children that can't learn it in the schoolroom, but might be able to learn it in the Bible study class.
Sunday
You know what I'm
school.
saying? There are ways to get that information out, but I would just love to see us, working a little bit closer together.
Well,
Denise,
let me go in a different direction, if
Sure.
I may. I think you've heard me talk about people in our community a lot tonight. And I think they're the reason we exist, because they buy our papers, they support us, and they make history for and on our behalf, and we tell their stories. But there's another aspect of what's going on with Black media today. We are no longer just Black newspapers. We happen to be multimedia in total. We have digital, we have digital newspapers, we have e-blast, we have, of course, the newspaper. Some of us interact with radio stations or television stations. So we're multimedia in that respect. But there's another dimension to us being multimedia. We produce events. We produce events for and on behalf of the community that celebrate, once again, the newfound accomplishments come from within our community. Here in Pittsburgh, we do 3 events. We do one called the Fab 40 Under 40, where we celebrate emerging young people and that are coming up, and there's 40 of them, and they're dynamic young people that are doing totally new things. At the same time, we showcase women and men of excellence, separate events each, and they are held at a venue that invites the community to come out. We have sponsors that come forth and celebrate the accomplishments of newfound people in the community who are flying under the radar in many instances, because people don't know these people were doing the jobs that they are doing. The stories that we're able to tell because we chronicled them in a special edition that is a historical document in and of itself. So we are then presenting people in the corporate community with an opportunity to identify people from within our community to sit on their boards and their authorities, because they don't know who exists in our community. Where else are they going to get the information? We are the ones that tell the stories about who exists in our community. No one else has that history. Nobody else wants to tell that story, but we celebrate the accomplishments of those that exist and are doing things for and on behalf of our people in the community. And I love it. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a new dimension for all of us.
Amen to that. That's a wonderful, just a wonderful way to end this part of the discussion, the celebration of what we have contributed. I think we might have time for one more comment, and then we will transition to our final remarks. We have a comment from Avis Matthews. It's more of a comment than a question. Avis is watching from the DMV and is glad to hear Denise reference the frustration in hearing folks, maybe they're well-meaning, but hearing them claim to be the first, making it clear that they haven't read or have disregarded the history. And so what is our role in kind of setting the record straight as a Black press and those who do research on the Black press? What is our role in setting the record straight? Constance, while we have you, we'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, definitely write and distribute. That's one of the things we do at the African Press Club. And we sort of come up with projects on African culture and identity. And you will be amazed that many of the things we are discovering were not taught in school at all. Most times we were taught European history a lot compared to African history. So all these things we are digging up and we are writing and archiving, and we are planning to distribute. It's very great to do that. But I would also say we don't focus only on Africa, we focus on African diaspora. African diaspora for us means everybody that is Black outside there. So I definitely look forward to working with you guys, also archive some of the African American history, and we can use it to share with people, share to people in Africa as well. Thank you.
And we have time for everybody to just give a final remark on that topic, or any final word that you want to leave with our audience. This has been a very provocative discussion and informational discussion, educational. So I'm going to start with Dr. Draper. Any final remarks, any key themes that you want to leave with our audience?
So we all do a lot of panels and discussions and have done so throughout our journalistic careers. My prayer is that we will take the suggestions of Constance, of Denise, and others and actually get together. There's power in collaboration, and there's power in numbers, and we can make a difference. We should have a collective response to what's happening in Florida, because it's not going to stay in Florida. It's going to go from Florida to Texas to wherever next. And we have the power within the Black press, along with our educational institutions, to make a difference. I'll close with this. December 23rd, 1909, Booker T. Washington wrote a letter to my great-grandfather, John Henry Murphy Sr., and said, "Would you say a word about teaching history in the Negro schools?" He said, "Children learn all kinds of history. They learn English history, white history, French history, German history, but they do not learn their own history. This matter must be corrected speedily." That's 1909. We're in 2023 and still singing the same song. So that means we need to do something different.
Excellent.
Thank you. Dr. Wilson.
Well, this has been a very interesting and informative discussion. I trust that we'll be able to put some of these things into practice. The one thing I would say is that as we look at what's going on in Florida and other places relative to education, the past is prologue. It is up to us to educate our people. So if books are banned or whatever, we can make up for that in a way that in which we tell our own story. I was thinking about what takes place in the Jewish community, where they have sometimes their own schools, meet once a week, or just to give them some history of their experience and as Jewish people. I can envision that for us. If we're being neglected in by the educational system, we need to take that task ourselves. And this is certainly what happened back in the day when the Black press was formed and getting underway. There were papers, people in slavery knew about Freedom's Journal, and people were learning to read despite the fact that there were harsh punishments for that. So the responsibility, we should not give up. It's actually a signal for us to go forward and take up the task ourselves. And so I agree with this sentiment that's coming from our panelists. Thank you.
Dr. West.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a really fantastic point about collaboration. And Asala, we have like one of the best examples of this, which is Carter G. Woodson, right? He's not just a historian, he's a really prominent journalist. And, there's been some really fantastic research done recently. Bernice Morris wrote a really great book. Jarvis Gibbons has written some really great work on this. Woodson is a fantastic example of using the Black press to distribute ideas about Black history, and this really close relationship, collaborative relationship between Black historical organizations civil rights organizations and the Black press. So I think there is a really great historical model that we can look to for thinking about that collaboration. And sure, you know, it might look different. The collaboration might seem different now because we're in a different moment and it's a different context. But I think, yeah, that's a really just such an important point. And this, you know, the need for collaboration and the need to create closer relationships between civil rights organizations, Black historical organizations, fraternal organizations, and the Black press, because it's happened before, and there's no reason that it can't continue and grow again in the 21st century, and, you know, reiterate the importance of the Black press in the present.
Thank you. Dr. Ikoku, and then Dr. Das will have the last word. Oh, did we lose her again? I think we may have. Dr. Das, you have the last word.
Well, thank you. It's been a great pleasure to be on this panel and hear the wisdom coming forth from my co-panelists. It's great. I enjoyed it all. But I would summarize by simply saying that the news, the problems, the solutions, the accomplishments, the history is deeply embedded within our communities, and the Black press will be there to record it all. Thank you very much.
And with that, I will say thank you to Dr. Wilson for agreeing to moderate this panel. Thank you to all of the panelists for your discussions, to Dr. West from signing in from the UK at midnight, and Dr. Ikoku at 1 a.m., and Dr. Rollard Barnes. We just thank you. I'm giving everybody the title of doctor this evening. Thank you all for your scholarship and your wisdom. And with that, I will invite Tamara Marie Saunders to come back and to give us the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, for the Q&A segment of tonight's program. On behalf of the Dr. Edna B. McKenzie branch, we would like to thank and acknowledge noted moderator, Dr. Clint C. Wilson II, Professor Emeritus, Howard University School of Communications, and all the panelists. Ms. Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer, Dr. Frances Murphy Draper, publisher of the Afro-American newspaper, Dr. Chiogo Ikoku, journalist, the African Press Club, and a Rise TV Nigeria, Dr. Rod Doss, publisher, New Pittsburgh Courier, Dr. E. James West, lecturer in arts and sciences at University College London. We thank you for participating in tonight's outstanding and noteworthy program, which was most enlightening. All the panelists stated we owe a debt of gratitude to the Black press for being a key crusader for human and civil rights for African Americans since 1827 with the founding of the Freedom's Journal. The moderator and the panelists educated the audience on how the Black press always remained true to its core mission in being a relentless advocate for African Americans in all fields, often at the expense of maintaining their viability and lives of individuals, reporters, editors, and owners who brought these news stories to the masses of African Americans. Learning about the history of the Black press is important because it shows how the Black press played a very prominent role in one of the greatest events in American history, which was the modern day civil rights movement that is an integral part of the Black freedom struggle. The Black press today still remains the true guardian of the legacy that first brought the Freedom's Journal into existence, for there will always be the need to have an independent, vibrant Black press to highlight the contributions and the unique 21st century challenges of African Americans, particularly at a time when the experiment in participatory governance is under assault. It is my hope that the Black press continues to be that front stage vehicle to report on the many injustices experienced by African Americans, of which those issues are still parts of the American landscape. For it was the Pittsburgh Courier that we first learned about the 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro by J.A. Rogers, which was featured weekly. For it was the Black press that first documented the contributions of African Americans in all fields of endeavor. The recognized father of Black history, our own Dr. Carter G. Woodson, was influenced by the Black press in devoting his life work in seeing that our history be accurately documented, promoted, researched, preserved, interpreted, and disseminated for African Americans and all demographics within the global community. Our charge and responsibility as a people is to give our full support for an independent, free Black press and to set a positive example for our young people to emulate for years to come that personifies excellence. The next Dr. Edna B. McKenzie branch of ASALA program will be March 11th at 11:30 in the morning and will feature ASALA Executive Council member, Dr. Natanya Duncan, who will give a presentation titled Crossing Waters and Fighting Tides, the Efficient Womanhood of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. We would like to thank the audience for attending, and we invite you to enjoy the musical rendition by the Oakwood University Choir, We Shall Overcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for our program, Resistance and the Black Press. And now, a selection from the Oakwood University Aeolians, We Shall Overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday, someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. We shall We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. Someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we'll walk hand in hand someday. shall live in, we shall live in, we shall live in, we shall live in, we shall live, we shall be his sons someday, deep in my heart, we shall overcome. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Deep in my heart, I do believe. We are not afraid. We'll walk hand in hand. We shall overcome someday. Someday. We'll overcome someday. Just be strong. Keep faith. We'll overcome someday. Someday. Someday.
Please be sure to join us for our upcoming programs that will be continuing throughout the month of February. On Saturday, February the 25th, Asala co-sponsors The Chisholm Effect, an in-person play at the Arc Theater. Tickets are available for $150 for orchestra seating and reception, and $75 for general admission. Purchase your tickets today at asalh.org or by calling 202-238-5912. And on Monday, February 27th, Asala presents the final installment of the virtual Author Book Talks, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Asala TV. And on Tuesday, February the 28th, Asala will conclude the month-long festival with our closing program starting at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Asala TV. We would also like to thank our sponsors who have made this festival possible with their generous support and financial contributions. First, we would like to thank our legacy sponsors and our History Maker sponsors, our preservation sponsors, and our media sponsors. Without your help and support, this event would not be possible. If you would like more information on how to be a sponsor or a member of Asala, please go to our website at www.asalh.org to learn more about how you can become a part of History in the Making with ASALH. Or you can contact our offices at 202-238-5912. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for our YouTube channel, ASALH TV, so you can be alerted to all of our programming when we go live. You can also follow us on our social media platforms via Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for the latest information pertaining to all of our virtual events for 2023. We look forward to seeing you at our next event right here on ASALH TV.